had a conversation with a client the other day, and one of the things their salespeople were asking about was my philosophy on how do we go about getting hold of prospects? Is it just cold calling, or what do I believe about social selling? My answer to them was very simple. I think you should do both. I think you should be getting hold of the prospect on many different angles. But you know what? I like to learn from other experts and get their philosophies and their ideas. And on this episode particular, I have a guest named Rylee Meek, and he's going to share with us his philosophy on what he calls social dynamic selling. You're going to like this stuff, man. Check it out. This episode is brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program. It's designed to help new or struggling sales reps understand the fundamentals and ultimately close more deals. We would love for you and your team to join. Find all the information by going to the salesevangelist.com/course. This episode is also brought to you in part by audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial. Simply go to audibletrial.com/TSE. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have a phenomenal guest. His name is Mr. Rylee Meek. Now, here's some cool things about Rylee before we jump into the episode. Now, Rylee is the founder and CEO of Social Dynamic Selling System, which turned dinner seminar marketing into a science. He responded to a Craigslist ad in 2009, and ever since then, it changed his life when he got introduced to this concept. Dude had $673 in his bank account, straight up. But more importantly, he had this burning desire for more. So Rylee went on to produce over $80 million in sales in the past 8 years. And today, he's going to share some of that wisdom on what he did, this concept that he was able to craft, and how this could potentially help you and your organization. Welcome to the show, Rylee.
Hey, Donald. Happy to be here, man.
Man, I'm super excited to have you. I know you're going to bring us some great wisdoms today because we're going to talk about something that I feel that many sellers would really appreciate. And it's what is social dynamic selling? And I know they're probably thinking, well, Donald, I'm intrigued now. I want to hear all about this. We're going to break it down. But before all of that, Rylee, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do?
All right, man. Yeah. So what am I? 34 years of age right now. I grew up in, small town South Dakota. I reside now up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I took my first job at the age of 15. I worked for a total of 8 hours, and that was my last job.
What was this job?
Dude, it was making pizzas. So I grew up in a town of like 1,000 people, like less than 1,000 people. So there's not a whole lot of opportunity there. But, at the age of 15, it's like I wanted to be able to make money. I had that kind of drive within me, but I didn't know what to do with it. So I thought, well, let's get a job. And, at the hourly rate at that time, minimum wage was $5.15. And I worked 8 hours. I did the math in my head and thought, there's no way now I'm doing that again. So that was the first and the last day on the job for me. And I really kind of dove into the entrepreneurial world at that point at a young age. I was very blessed. My family was big into network marketing companies. I had some, friends and family that were, had made a significant amount of money in that industry, which was like mind altering for me at the time because it wasn't, I didn't have any like true mentorship or anything, but I was able to get involved with, like-minded people, a group of people that were, more about personal development and, directed me on books to read and, just a different way of thinking than what I had normally grown up with. And that was, a crucial time, I think, in my life to know that, I'm truly in control of my own destiny. And it's not necessarily about, getting a job and working for the man, but, being able to be the man. And that was, kind of the initial first step in my life of of taking on that entrepreneurship role. Still, going to school and doing, high school. I graduated at age of 17. I moved up to the Twin Cities. My plan was still at the time to become a chiropractor. I was, they're somewhat business owners. They're entrepreneurs, I guess we'll call it. But, I thought that was the way to go in my path. And as I was going to school, I got a couple of years and I was making good money with my network marketing company that I was working with. And I thought, why would I do this? I'm making 10, 15 grand a month selling nutritional supplements. Why would I go $150,000 in debt in school loans?
And that doesn't make sense to me at all.
That was kind of my first step. What's that?
You said that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Right. And that was kind of like, well, the heck with school. I'm just going to pursue this path. And things were going well, man. Things were good. Life was good. I was, 19. I had my first BMW, making all this money. I thought I was really something, but I came to the realization that, all of my income was based solely on my efforts. And, I was working a lot, 16, 17 hours a day. And the system that I had in place certainly wasn't duplicatable, which in that world, the MLM pyramid scheme, whatever you want to call it world, that's the goal is always you have, 1% of 100 people's efforts, not 100% of your own efforts. And I had kind of that aha moment where it's like, all right, well, I got to do something different. And I ended up, long story here, but I'll try to make it short. I ended up catching a flight to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Yeah.
Because we were opening up operations. The company I was with was opening up in that country. And I thought, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go over. I'm going to be in the ground floor. It's a great opportunity, blah, blah, blah. I caught my flight over there was like 10, 12 hours to Tokyo. And I slowly started having a panic attack. Like it was just anxiety city.
Why is that?
I'm flying across halfway across the world. I don't know a single soul. I don't know the language. And I was young and dumb. I was just like, I'm going to go do it, which is great. It's a beautiful thing, a beautiful time in your life. But when it like hit me, I was a wreck. I ultimately made it to Kuala Lumpur. I spent a night on a dude's couch and I was like, I got to go home. I literally begged Delta to get me on a flight back home. And I came back with my tail between my legs and I'm like, what the heck am I doing, man? I'm 19 years of age. I don't have an education. I was engaged at the time. I'm like, I got to be able to provide. And I was like, well, I like sales. I knew I liked that, the entrepreneurship. So I thought, let me get my Series 6, my 63, my life and health license. And I went to work for Prudential. Right out the gates, crushed it month one. But I quickly realized that, it's like the network marketing world. It was like, go talk to your friends and family. And I was getting sick of that. And it was like, I don't want to have to continually beg them for, the next product that I'm going to be selling or whatever the case is. And I wanted to be able to sell something to people I don't know, not just my warm market. Like, let me figure out a system to sell to people that I don't know. And so I ended up taking a different job selling home remodeling. And I remember very, very clearly, here I go to this interview, I'm all in, a suit and tie, dressed to the nines. And everybody, I walk in there, they're wearing like flannels and blue jeans and whatever. And it's just like, they basically gave me the job on the spot. But one thing that I remember so clearly to this day was the manager in that interview. He said, Rylee, you can crush this. You can make six figures, at the age of 20 at the time. But, 85% of this job is negative. And if you can focus on the 15%, you will make a great living for you and your family. And for me, that was something that I truly held on to, even to this day, that if I could just focus on that 15%, it didn't matter. The 85 no's to get the 15 yeses was all it really took. And that was just crucial in my development in my overall sales career. And I worked a couple of years for that company and was always either the number one or number two sales rep for them. And it was a great time, a great learning experience. But again, it was, as much money as I was making, low six figures, nothing crazy by any means, but it was like, I'm only able to do so many presentations in a day.
Yes.
And it was like, this 1, 2, 3 hour presentation, if I got into the home, it's like, okay, I'm still capped by the amount of time in a day. And that was frustrating to me, unless I'm going to have a sales team and manage and, blah, blah, blah. But it was like, I hated that. I wanted to be able to, amass wealth. Like, how could I actually do this?
Yeah.
And, I went on numerous other opportunities kind of had come into my lap. I ended up taking advantage of an opportunity down in Mexico. I ended up moving to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico for 5 months when I was 23. Yeah, I was 23 years of age at the time. And they were a new network marketing company was opening up operations in Mexico. And I thought, okay, am I really going to do this again? But I thought I can do Mexico. Like, I can at least get around. I know a little bit of the language. It's not that big of a deal. So I did. I ended up leasing out my condo here in the Twin Cities. With another buddy of mine, we rented an apartment down there, just like 5 blocks up, beautiful, like right on beautiful in the bay of Puerto Vallarta, just overlooking the whole bay is a gorgeous spot. And we spent 5 months there. It was supposed to be longer, but, as we were jumping through all the hoops and, recruiting and selling our product and everything, the Mexican government actually came in and shut us down.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And so we caught a flight home. They're like, you can't operate here. And so we ended up catching a flight home with nothing to show for it. Like, everything that we had worked for that 5 months was null and void. Like, we didn't have the ability to ship our products or anything into there. And so we came back to the States, and not only had I invested literally all of my money into this, but I was homeless. I literally rented out my condo. I couldn't just go kick them out. Yeah. So I came back to the States.
Get out. I'm lost.
Yeah. It was brutal, man. Came back to the States, was literally sleeping on my sister's couch going, okay, what the heck? What's next? It was like my second midlife crisis, we'll call it. But still, I'm only 24 at the time. And it was like, what am I going to do next? And I spent the next 2 months, like, just searching, trying to figure out, like, what could I develop a product? What could I sell? I didn't want to go to work for somebody else. I certainly knew that. Yeah. That wasn't, my mind couldn't handle that 9-to-5 business. So it was like, well, what could I do here? And it was a wonderful time in my life, just, soul searching and trying to figure out, like, what the heck am I going to do without having, I had no money. I mean, it was just like, I got to figure this thing out. And I ended up coming across this ad on Craigslist of all freaking places.
That's what I was going to say, Craigslist.
And it said, work 3 days a week and make $10,000. And I'm like, yeah, right.
There's a gimmick.
There's a ton of those ads out there. It's just like spam. But of course, I inquired, like, why not? And I ended up getting a phone call from this dude, and he was telling me about what he was doing, and this was ultimately my first experience with selling to groups, selling one to many versus one-on-one. And he's like, hey, I've got a presentation. It was about an hour and a half south of where I had lived at the time. And he said, why don't you come on down and check it out next week? And I did. I drove down there and I walked into this. It was literally just kind of a local steakhouse. Walked into this room and he had 24, 25 people sitting in this room listening to him pitch them, basically. Like, he's up there just selling his products. And at the end of it, he just asked for an appointment. And it blew my mind. He walked out of that restaurant with 7 or 8 appointments to see the next day that had already seen the pitch. I didn't sleep that night. I drove home. I'm like, what? It was just mind altering for me, because he did one rock star presentation and he is only meeting with those that actually want to know more, want to know the price, or if they can afford it. And that just really got my wheels spinning. I was like, could I do this? Is this a thing? And ultimately, within a few months after that, I had my first seminar. And I took some of the products that he was selling. We added to it a little bit. And I had my first presentation. And I remember driving to this event. I don't even know how I picked this town, rural Minnesota. I remember driving there. I had $673 in my bank account, just full well knowing that this was going to work. It was like do or die. And I had 17 or 18 people coming out to my presentation, and I knew I had to sell them. And I did. It worked. We stumbled a ton beginning, just kind of ironing out the wrinkles and everything like that. But I was able to do, a presentation and make some sales that week, which allowed me to fund the next presentation, which allowed me to fund the next presentation.
Yeah.
And within the first 6 months, I did 2.1 million in
Say
sales.
what?
Yeah, it was nuts, dude. And after that, it was, okay, let's recruit and let's hire and train. And within the next year, we did 12 million. The next year, we did another 12 million. And we started offering different products, different services. And it was a crazy time. And it was fun. I mean, there's nothing more fun than just figuring it out, you know?
What were you selling at this point?
What's that?
What were you selling at this point?
So very early on, we were selling, this is the funniest thing, we were selling like insulation, LED lighting, like home remodeling things, like stuff that would make their homes more energy efficient. So we crafted an invitation and said, come on out. I'll teach you how to save money on your utility bills and enjoy like a free steak dinner on me. And people came out and, you know, if you do a good enough presentation, if you get them to know, like, and trust you, they'll do business with you. And you know, we then, you know, added on different products. I started a couple different other companies selling different products. And it was like, great, this is fantastic. You know, I'm making a ton of dough. Life's good. I personally, you know, probably a year and a half into it, I personally stepped back from doing the presentations and was just coaching and training and teaching our sales reps and, you know, running the company for the most part. And, you know, after we would start another product, another service, it was like, all right, I would go in and learn how to sell that. And I remember so clearly on a Wednesday night, I came home and again, we're making great money. Life is good. My wife and I, we travel, we do what we want. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
But it was so clearly, I came home and I just had such a pit in my stomach of just like unfulfillment. And for anybody that's in sales or even made a lot of money, it's like, it's not about the money. It's really about the fulfillment in what you can provide and you know, the value that you bring to life and to people. And I remember sitting down at my kitchen table just going, no, okay, great. I, you know, had another good sales week, but I was just so unfulfilled. And I started to think back to early on, like the very early on days of selling when I was constantly looking for that next lead or the next sale, like just constantly chasing after the next sale, and the struggles, the day in and day out, ups and downs of, you know, feast and famine of the sales cycle, you know, that 85% negativity. And I thought, man, there's a lot of people. I had zero passion for the products or service that I was selling. I mean, literally, I am the least mechanical dude on the planet. Like my wife is the one who hangs the pictures in our house because I can't do it. So for me to be selling home remodeling products at the time, it's like, it was hilarious, you know?
Yeah.
And so I had zero passion for that. It's like, yeah, we're helping people, but like, I didn't give two rips about it. And I thought about, like, you know, there are so many business owners out there or salesmen out there that have a passion for their product. Like they, you know, you can have the greatest product in the world, but if you don't have a vehicle to take it to the masses, it's not going to do any good, you know? And so, you know, if you build it, they don't come. I don't care if anybody tells you that, they don't come. You got to go out and get them. And I thought, man, if there are business owners out there, salesmen out there that have this passion for the product, they just don't know how to reach the masses. Could I help them? Like, it was an epiphany for me where it was just like, all right, it is the system that we've developed, this well-oiled machine, is that the product? Is that actually what I should be selling versus just these random products that I don't care about? And I grabbed a paper and pen and I just started to write. And I thought about everything that I had done over the last decade of, like, okay, how do we craft our message? How do we design our invitation? How do we talk to restaurants when we book these venues? How do the phone calls when people are RSVPing? I just took that all and I just started to write and put it all down on the presentations that we build, how to ask for the appointment, how to create sense of urgency. And I just wrote it. I mean, it was just like spewing out of me. And it ultimately was the early stage of what we now know as the social dynamic selling system. And that was really the pivot point in my life from taking, you know, me just selling products and services to now coaching and teaching clients how to sell their products and services utilizing dinner seminars. I mean, at the core of what social dynamic selling is, it is dinner seminars. We invite people out, we feed them a nice steak dinner, we establish the presenter as the authoritative figure in that industry. They talk for whatever it is that topic is for the next, you know, hour or so. And at the end of it, if they did a good enough job, if they've gained that know, like, and trust, they then ask for that appointment and meet with them the following day and then ultimately close deals. And so we've developed this into that coaching kind of platform where we teach people exactly what we've done, which has generated me personally we just surpassed over $100 million in personal sales utilizing the social dynamic selling system.
I know you're getting into this concept and you're loving it, but we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, Rylee's going to finish up where he left off and continue to share with you this idea of the social dynamic selling. You're listening to the Sales Evangelist podcast, and I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. I kind of got into sales by accident, but still yet not really. My family are Jamaicans, and we've been selling ever since I was a kid. So I knew I wanted to do something related to that. My friends, however, in college told me, "You have a great personality, you should go into sales." And I did. Now, B2C selling was amazing. I made some pretty good money. But when I got into B2B selling, it was difficult. And no matter if you are an accidental seller or you want to do this since you were born, if you don't have the proper training, you're not going to succeed. So I didn't. Luckily, I got help. I had the passion, the drive. Now I knew exactly what to do, and I started to thrive. This is why I created TSE Certified Sales Training Program, because there are many of you just like me who didn't have the right training but had a desire. TSE Certified Sales Training Program will teach you all of the fundamentals you need to really thrive and to be successful as a seller. Join our group coaching program. We would love to have you. Find all the details in the show notes or go to thesalesevangelist.com/course. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/course. This episode is also brought to you in part by Audible. Audible has hundreds and thousands of titles of books for you to choose from fiction to how-to sales books. One of the books I'm listening to right now is Sales Management Simplified by Mike Weinberg. I'm telling you, the book is amazing. I highly recommend you check it out. Get the book for free and also a 30-day free trial of Audible. Simply go to audibletrial.com/TSE. Again, audibletrial.com/TSE. Hey, we're back. And as we dive into the second half of this episode, Rylee's going to pick up where we left off and continue to outline to you his system and how this could be beneficial for you as a sales rep. That is amazing. Amazing that you, first off, that you did that. And second of all, I'm glad you got that clarity. And I think that sometimes too many of us, we do something just to do it without having that real reasonings or that real clarity behind it. And that's powerful, man. Now, that social dynamic system, I know we can't have the opportunity to get all of that today, but what would that breakdown look like? If, when you're getting someone, I guess first off, let's back up. Is this applicable to anyone, or does it have to be someone that's selling B2C?
Sure. Yeah. So majority of what we do is B2C. It's not that way. I haven't worked with B2B, but the majority of what we do is B2C, because part of it is, we're creating a message, an atmosphere where we're sending an invitation directly out to typically a homeowner to come on out and learn about X, whatever that is, whether that's home remodeling or we do this for doctors. Certainly, most of the listeners have probably heard of or gotten an invitation on a financial service, a rep. They do a ton of these. They're like the originators of it, of like doing dinner presentations to come over and sell you an annuity or, whatever that is. But what we've really crafted is taking that kind of idea, but putting it into multiple different verticals. And so this isn't for everybody by any means, because if your product is a $48 widget, I'll be the very, very first person to tell you that there's not enough money to afford to do this, because this does take some money to make happen. We're spending thousands of dollars on a weekly basis, but I'm making millions of dollars. So it's like it does take a little bit of money to make it happen. So your product has to have a decent enough margin in order to make this work. you asked if it's B2C or B2B. I mean, we've done B2B like investment clubs that, they're looking for accredited investors. So we're seeking out, business owners, but we have to jump through some certain hoops to be able to get past the gatekeeper or the person that would normally check their mail, because we do a ton of direct mail with this, millions and millions of pieces of direct mail under our belt. So I love talking about that, really, because most people think like, really, direct mail?
Yeah,
that's so archaic. But at the core, dude, I've never had a higher return on investment. We've done all different kinds of marketing, whether it's Facebook or SEO, Google, any of that to try to get people to respond and come to an event. But the absolute highest return on investment has been direct mail, and it's wonderful because it's such a measurable form of marketing. That's so easy. If I send 5,000 pieces and I get 50 responses, I know exactly what my response rate is. And I think that's crucial in any campaign, whether you do this campaign or you're doing, Facebook ads. Like, you got to know your numbers. You got to track your metrics and know where you're at, so you're spending or you're allocating your funds appropriately.
Yeah, and I think that's something that is that's overlooked sometimes by sales reps, not knowing their numbers. I think we feel that it's well. Let's back up a little bit. And I had a conversation with someone recently, and they were talking about the idea of going into sales. They were an accidental seller, and they just hated the number side of things. Like the scientific side. They were thinking about medicine, I think it was, and it was like, there's no way I'm going to do this. But in some way, you have to be a mini scientist or an analyst in some way. I mean, you don't have to be too complicated, but you just need to know certain basic numbers. And if you don't, you're going to be doing, focusing on skills and arts alone, when in actuality, I think there's a blend of art and science that makes this fascinating, makes this successful.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
And I agree with you, though, that there's still, I've seen companies that have done it right, where they've modeled something similar in what they call the lunch and learn. You know what I mean? So they might have a couple key businesses come over to their offices, and they serve them lunch and give them an opportunity to get a demonstration. And I had a guy talk about that a couple of years ago on our podcast. And I think for now, we are so much in this era of we have to do don't get me wrong. I make 90% of my business is done over the web, but we get tied up with the fact that I have to just sell a demo or something like that. And it's that one-to-one. They don't get the idea that in-person can still be powerful. And also the snail mail. Snail mail is, like you said, direct mail is beautiful right now. And especially not a lot of people are doing it. So you stand out.
Exactly. The competition has definitely dwindled as far as, people getting junk mail, we call it. I mean, because that's literally a lot of what we sell is just considered, or a lot of what we send is just considered junk mail. But there's things you do to make it not appear as junk mail. We're addressing people by their first and last names, and the data that's out there for us to be able to send these invitations is phenomenal. So that's good stuff, man. You had said the metrics thing or the numbers thing that you had talked about. I think that's so crucial for any sales rep. I mean, there's gifted sales reps out there that are just unicorns. They don't even know their numbers. They don't even know what they do or what they say or how they say it. They just are good at it. Yeah. But those are so far and few between. Thankfully, I have a couple of those on my team, which is phenomenal. I love it. But when I sit down with them and it's like, all right, so what was your appointment rate? What was your close rate and stick rate? And they have no freaking idea. It's like, how do you do this?
I got them to buy. That was it. That's all I know. Okay. Stop, boss.
Exactly. Like, here's my deals. It's like, okay, well, thank you. But you can't teach or train anybody, but just continue to do what you do.
Fair enough. Well, no, this is the whole process then is using the social environment to sell and being able to build trust, significant amount of trust, and giving them a gift, giving them an opportunity to learn as well as to take advantage of something that could benefit their life.
And there's so many components involved in any successful campaign, but the very, very first thing is whenever we take a client on, it's like, all right, who is your true client avatar? And it blows my mind how many business owners or salesmen have no clue. Yeah. About what it is, like, who is your ideal client? And, is it 5'8", blonde hair, blue eyes, females under the age of 35, or is it complete opposite? Like, there's tools out there, and if you take advantage of them to figure that out, if you can back into or reverse engineer, like, who have you been selling to over the last decade or, over the last year? And for startups, they might not know. They have no clue. And at that, we take a best guess, but we want to always start with the end in mind, like, who is our true customer? Like, who can we target? And then we'll start to, demographically, geographically identify the best area to target those people. That's where we would choose the venue. And from there, then how do we craft a message? How do we create an invitation that's compelling enough to get them to take action? And, and everything has continuity to it, or consistency with the message that we're crafting, from the invitation they get to the person that they're RSVPing to the confirmation call, to the presentation at, the day of the event, to the actual in-home sale. That whole process has a flow to it. And we're not rushing to anything. Everything is measurable, and we're able to track that, just so we know on the fly if we have to make adjustments or changes or anything like that. So there's a lot of steps involved within it, which that's what I had to learn. I mean, the first 3-4 years, it was very expensive learning this stuff to try to figure out the best way to how do you set up your room? Yeah. How do you deliver the presentation? Do you eat first? Do you eat last? Like, all of that comes into play with the flow of the actual event itself.
Well, I am curious though. Do you eat first or do you eat last?
Depends on the situation, because if I'm doing an evening presentation, and this all depends on who we're working with, who is our ideal client. If I'm looking to target 50 to 70-year-olds, I would probably do a dinner, at a 6 or 6:30 start time, so they have the ability to, come after work. If I'm targeting, retirees, I might do a breakfast. I might do a Saturday morning or a Tuesday morning, breakfast with coffee and donuts or whatever. It depends on who we're trying to target.
Yeah.
But I always start with something small, like a salad. Even if it's dinner, as they're coming in, I'm starting with something. I'm immediately giving them something, because the law of reciprocity takes place. Like, here we go. We're chit-chatting. It's an easy, comfortable environment. They're not closed off, because they're literally, if you think of a closed off person, if you can just think of right now, like somebody with their arms crossed, I'm not going to get sold anything like that. If I can physically change that environment by making them eat a salad, those arms are no longer crossed.
Yeah.
And we're conversing, and we're having just a normal conversation, because the goal of our presentations isn't to sell. It's absolutely not to sell. The goal is to get them to know, like, and trust us. And we do that by creating an environment that's fun and laid back and easygoing. They're not feeling like they're sold, because nobody ever wants to be sold.
None.
People want to buy.
Yeah.
And you got to create that environment and dangle that carrot that allows them to make that buying decision, that's not pressuring them to make a sale.
Man, that is so awesome. If there's one major takeaway, one major piece of advice you'd want to give to someone who's contemplating doing this or thinking about this idea of you implementing something around the social dynamics towards their sales efforts, what's the one major piece of advice you'd give them, Rylee?
Yeah, I would say, if you're looking at wondering or questioning if this social dynamic selling platform is a good vehicle for you to do your marketing, figure out exactly what your true client acquisition cost is right now. And so many customers of ours or clients of ours have no clue. What does it cost you to actually acquire that client right now, or that customer? And is there a lifetime value to that customer? Is it a one-time sale? Like I said before, if you're selling a $48 widget and you don't care or hear from them ever again, don't even bother with this platform. I'm telling you, it's not going to work. Okay. But if you have a $48 widget that has a lifetime value of $30,000, or, whatever that number is, which is a real thing. If you have a sales ladder that you can get them to take bites at the apple, then this could absolutely make sense for you. So if you can figure that out, and then just schedule a call with myself or one of our team members, and we can talk through it. Because before we onboard any client, we always do basically just a consultation of call to make sure that this actually makes sense or doesn't make sense. Because, it doesn't do us any good to spend a day with you and build out a whole plan if it's not something that's going to be a long-term relationship. That's every client that we have, when we're doing events, 90% of our clients are doing them every single week. And so it's a continual. The beautiful thing about the sales system, the social dynamic selling system, why we call it a system, is that that's what it is. If you can continually keep your pipeline full, it's predictable, it's sustainable, and more importantly, if you're early on and you're looking to scale, it is scalable. I can throw a dart at a map, and within a month, I can fly into that area, do a presentation, make the sale, and then piece back out to my home. So, and that's again the beautiful thing about this is you don't need a brand, you don't need recognition, we can give me a product and we will develop a presentation for it based upon, not the product itself, but based upon the benefits of the product, but not even the benefits, but the benefits of the benefits, and getting people to take that, getting them emotionally involved to make that buying decision, but have it be backed by logic. I think that's crucial.
Man, this is awesome. Well, how can people get in touch with you? If the folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to go about doing so?
Yeah, man. socialdynamicselling.com. That's our website, socialdynamicselling.com. Personally, I've got a workwithrylee.com is another site. And Rylee spelled a little different. It's RYLEE. So workwithrylee.com. But on there, you can schedule a strategy call with one of myself or even my team members. And we can wrap through some, just some basic questions for anybody that is, contemplating if this would work for them or their business, or if they have an idea. There's nothing more that I geek out to than, young entrepreneurs or any entrepreneurs really that have an idea and a vision, because there's, the sky's the limit if you've got the vision.
Love it, man. Well, Rylee, man, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today, for coming and sharing your message, and for being an asset to helping our community. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Donald. This has been fun, man.
Anytime. I told you in the teaser of this episode, I like learning from different people because they share new ideas. I definitely got something new today. And I hope that you can take this idea and apply it to your life or to your business as well. If you desire to learn a little bit more about Rylee, to connect with them, simply go back to the show notes. thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1201. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1201. Tell Rylee that you heard him on the Sales Evangelist podcast, and I'm sure he'll be super excited and love to connect with you as well. While you're on the show notes, I want you guys to check out TSE Certified Sales Training Program. You can take the course by yourself and watch the videos, or you can go ahead and join the group coaching program where you go through the course module each week and then jump on a group call with us. You get a chance to connect with myself or experts that I bring in, and also other members going through the program as well. We do role plays. We go further in depth. I would love to be able to help you and your team to help you to close more deals. To find more information, simply go to thesalesevangelist.com/course. Make sure to also check out Audible. Take advantage of the offer. You get one free audiobook and a 30-day free trial. All the information is in show notes, or simply go to audibletrial.com/TSE. Altogether, we share stuff like this. We bring guests on like Rylee because we want to help you. We want you to find more of your ideal customers. We want you to have more meaningful conversations. And obviously, ultimately, it's to close more deals. But most importantly, I want to challenge you each and every single day to go out and do big things. Hey, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode today. And also, if you haven't done so already, I ask you to go ahead and hit subscribe. It would be an absolute honor to have you leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It goes a long way. Folks are able to come back behind you, see your testimonial, and hit subscribe because of what you share. I would greatly appreciate that. Our show today was produced by myself and the Sales Podcast Network. It was edited and mixed together by the one and only Jershan O'Bale. Our show note today was created by Rael Ramirez. Our podcast guest coordinator is Mrs. Maymar. All of our podcast artwork and social media graphics was created today by Desin Cunado. Our podcast production manager is Mrs. Shannon Rasmussen. You can find audio credits to this and all of our episodes in each of our show notes. And as always, I am your host, your coach, your mentor, your guide down the sales journey, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. Sales Podcast Network.